Hi, it's Lisan. On the weekend, I was watching a Buzzfeed video about a 30-day vegan experiment where 4 people went vegan for 30 days, and it just documented their experiences and how they felt and what they ate and whether they were going to stick to the diet after the experiment. The people didn't stick to the diet afterwards. Some of them did want to include more vegan meals in their lifestyle, but they didn't go vegan. It portrayed the diet as being very restricted and people were feeling deprived, and it seemed like the participants didn't really know what they were getting into. They didn't know about the nutritional aspects of it, and I think the experiment was meant to be like an educational tool as well. I was looking through the comments to see what people were saying about it, and I saw one thread that was talking about Freely the Banana Girl, and I found it funny because some people have very weird perceptions of her, and one person in particular was saying that she is a moron and she doesn't know what she's talking about. If Freely saw this video and made a video on it, she would probably say that the people were doing it wrong and they should have done a high carb diet, they should have been eating enough, they should have educated themselves on the ethical aspects of being vegan. And I just commented on that thread and I said that I would agree with Freely. I think Freely would be right in saying those things. And then this whole argument started, and it went into how people have evolved to eat meat and we can't survive on a vegan diet if we're in the wild. I just want to share this thread with you because I think we can learn something from it, and it might give you ideas on how to respond to people like this. And I'll just say the name of this person. They're called Seria, and they said that they're studying anthropology and history, and so they must know about all this stuff that we don't know. But I'll share with you what I said and you can let me know whether you agree or not. This is what Seria said. Actually, there's a ton she's completely wrong about. She legit thinks that humans were never ever meant to eat animal products ever. She literally thinks humans didn't evolve that way. She's basically insane. And I replied and I said, we may be able to digest animal matter, but it doesn't make it optimal food for us. Then she replied and said, actually it is. The issue comes with the horrible over-processing of food along with the excessive antibiotics and chemicals given to the animals. Back in the day, a person could eat anything they wanted because none of it was processed and as fake as it is now. Human beings have evolved as omnivores because that's how we survived. We were eating more meat and animal products than not, and were hunter-gatherers with a meat-based diet for a good while before we discovered farming. Sure, people can thrive on a vegan diet, but it's not a diet that can be sustained in a single ecosystem. Most of the nutrients we need that are found in plants have to be imported to obtain. This is from a northeastern US view. If we had to live off the land in an apocalypse or something, you cannot be vegan here. It's also a horrendously expensive diet to live on, depending on where you live. It's frightfully expensive to import vegan foods like fruits and veggies to a colder climate. If you consume animal products from a farm that is local and treats its animals humanely, and then she didn't finish that sentence, human beings are not evil for eating other animals because we are animals and meat eating is literally encoded into our DNA. If it wasn't healthy or not optimal, then we literally wouldn't have evolved to be able to eat it. So that's quite a long comment. And there was so much misinformation in that paragraph that I just had to break it down and explain why this person is wrong. So one of the first things that she says is about the horrible overprocessing of food. And yes, this is true to a certain extent, but even meats that aren't processed have naturally occurring substances in them, like naturally occurring hormones, saturated fat, cholesterol, animal protein, and even when you cook those animal proteins, they form cancer-causing chemicals. So why would you want to eat that unless you had no other option? So it doesn't make it optimal food for us, even if we can digest it. Another point she makes is back in the day, human beings have evolved as omnivores. So she provides no evidence to back up that statement. If we evolved as omnivores, we would have the physiological characteristics of an omnivore, but our digestive physiology is more similar to that of a frugivore or a starchivore. And I'll also link to another video that I was watching today that shows that human beings in the very early days ate mostly plant matter and in fact evolved on cooked starches. So it's completely false that we evolved eating meat. If anything, we might have survived eating meat when necessary, but it's not an optimal food. And another thing that Sarah says is, we were hunters and gatherers. No, we are not hunters and gatherers. As I said before, if you look at the teeth remains of the early humans, they had plant matter in their teeth. You don't find meat on their teeth. So they were eating mostly plants. And if they were eating meat, then it would have been very little. Another thing that Sarah says is, sure, people can thrive on a vegan diet, but it's not a diet that can be sustained in a single ecosystem. And again, she gives no proof of this. There are many cultures around the world that are thriving on a high carbohydrate plant-based diet. They may not be completely vegan, but those animal foods that they are eating are not the main thing that they're eating. So obviously those animal foods can be taken out of the diet with no problems. Another thing that she says is, if we had to live off the land in an apocalypse or something, you cannot be vegan here. And my response to that is, so in an apocalypse, is everything gone except for the animals that we eat or eggs and dairy? That's just ridiculous. In an apocalypse, if everything was abolished, then we would just not survive. But if you think about it, the planet that we're living on now is going through a kind of apocalypse, in that there is so much environmental destruction because of animal agriculture. And why should we contribute to that? If you want to have a healthy planet where everyone can survive and thrive on a vegan diet, then why not choose that? Another thing that Sarah said that I disagree with is that it is a horrendously expensive diet to live on. I'm going to say it just depends what you buy. Of course, there are some things that will be more expensive, like if you want to eat out, it's always more expensive. If you want to buy more specialty vegan foods that are organic and from those special shops that you buy from online, then of course things will be more expensive. But if you base your diet on cooked starches like rice and oats and potatoes and noodles and pasta, it's not really that expensive. In fact, it's often cheaper than meat and animal-based products to buy those staple foods. And if you want to buy vegetables and other fresh produce like fruit, then that might be more expensive. But why would you not want to pay for something that's healthy? In the long run, you're going to be paying more for healthcare and for treating diseases than if you prevent those diseases with a healthy diet early on. So I think it's worth the extra cost of buying more fruits and veggies if you can, but if not, then you can still do a vegan diet on a budget. And there's plenty of channels that show you how to do that, including mine. And it's so much easier than people think. Another thing that Sarah says that I disagree with is, if you consume animal products from a farm that is local and treats its animals humanely, and she didn't finish that sentence is basically trying to justify unnecessary intentional killing of animals. There is no humane way of killing an animal that wants to live. So yes, there are less cruel ways, but they are still cruel. And if we can thrive as a species without harming other creatures, or at least reducing that harm, then we should go for that option. We're not paleo anymore, we're not early humans, we can be civilized in what we choose. We can have compassion, and we can set an example for other people to follow. Another thing that Sarah says is that human beings are not evil for eating other animals, because we are animals and meat eating is literally encoded into our DNA. So she's saying human beings are not evil. Being an animal doesn't make us resistant to being evil or being good. As humans, we are moral beings and we have a choice to be compassionate. And we don't have to follow the example of a true carnivore that must eat meat to survive. Also, if meat eating is encoded into our DNA, then why is it that a plant-based diet lengthens our telomeres, thereby increasing our longevity and health? Another thing that I said to Sarah was that if she was studying anthropology, she might have come across the articles of Catherine Milton, who does have a PhD in biological anthropology, and she actually promotes a plant-based diet. In conclusion, even if we are omnivores, why not be a vegan omnivore? Why not do what's best for the planet, what's best for the animals, and best for our body? So this video isn't really just to defend freely, but basically to defend the idea of a plant-based diet as being optimal for humans. And one that is least harmful to the animals and to the environment. So I hope that you learned something from this. Let me know what you think, and thank you for watching. See you in my next video.